UK.
We are following a developing story this morning. For the first time ever, 2 Chinese military planes have been intercepted in international waters near Alaska. That's according to the North American Aerospace Defense Command. The Chinese bombers were accompanied by 2 Russian long-range bombers yesterday. U.S. and Canadian fighter jets were sent up in response, but things ended without incident. ABC senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez has the details. Louis, Russian military activity has been common in this region, but having Chinese planes there is unusual. So what are officials saying about that?
And it is very unusual, which is one of the reasons why the NORAD actually pushed out this information really quickly. We have heard of Russian intercepts for years. You're seeing some of those pictures right now on your screen. But it is very uncommon. Actually, this is the first time that Chinese aircraft have accompanied Russian bombers in these flights off the coast of Alaska. Now, we're talking about several hundred miles off the coast of Alaska, but still, it's enough to trigger an intercept by U.S. and Canadian fighter aircraft to try to get visual confirmation of who they are when they enter this area. But it's really uncommon and kind of shows the growing bonds between both China and Russia militarily. This is something that developed after, that we've seen increasing with more frequency after Russia's invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago. But this is, again, the most visible scene that we've seen so far of this growing military cooperation between both countries.
So, Louis, what do we know so far about what these planes were doing there?
Well, it's obvious that they're trying to send a message. They're trying to send a message that both Russia and China's militaries can work together. We've seen exercises off the coast of Alaska over the last year. There was a very large one about a year ago where there was essentially a flotilla of about 10 ships, Russian and Chinese Navy ships, that got close to Alaska, but the United States was tracking them all the way through, very much how the United States and Canada were tracking these aircraft from the moment they took off. Probably from Russia, Eastern Russia. So this is intended to send a message that they have capabilities, but again, not as much capability as the United States does militarily in order to carry out these kinds of missions. Because in order to carry out these kinds of missions, Dan, Russia has to fly these planes to the eastern part of the country because they're not normally stationed there.
ABC senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez, thank you.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, is reported to have alerted more than 500,000 personnel, following the Washington summit, which resulted in 38 points of agreement. In a report quoted from the official NATO website, one of the points produced at the meeting was regarding the future of Ukraine, which wants to join the alliance. We fully support Ukraine's right to choose its own security arrangements and decide its own future, free from outside interference. Ukraine's future lies with NATO, read the NATO Council statement. Meanwhile, NATO spokesperson, Farah Deklala, confirmed the readiness of a large number of troops and called it a comprehensive defense plan. Deklala's statement was in line with a number of points in the Washington summit declaration, most of which accused Vladimir Putin's regime of being responsible for Russia's military aggression in Ukraine, including the rhetoric of Russian nuclear threats, which is considered to be coercive strategic intimidation. Since 2014, NATO has undergone the most significant transformation in our collective defense in a generation, said Deklala. We have prepared the most comprehensive defense plan since the Cold War, with currently more than 500,000 troops on high alert, he said, as quoted by Al Mayadeen. A week earlier, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, again stated that Ukraine's accession as a member of NATO would be considered a declaration of war against his country. Medvedev emphasized that Ukraine's accession would also pose more than a direct security threat to Russia. The former Russian president also did not take into account NATO member countries regarding plans to include Ukraine as a member, but all decisions were controlled by the United States, U.S. This would essentially be a declaration of war, albeit with a delay. The more such efforts there are, the louder our answer will be, Medvedev said. Whether this will blow the entire planet to pieces depends entirely on the prudence of the NATO side. For Russia, nothing will change. Since the main decisions are not made by NATO member states, but by the single United States, he said.
Tonight, Israel says at least a dozen children and teenagers were killed after a rocket hit a soccer field where they were playing. The Israeli military says it's the deadliest attack on its civilians since October 7th. And it's blaming Hezbollah, the powerful Iranian-backed militant group in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah tonight denying responsibility, but Israel vowing to strike back.
This attack shows the true face of Hezbollah.
The rocket hitting the Golan Heights, disputed territory Israel captured from Syria in 1967. Most of the victims from the Druze religious minority. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now rushing back from Washington. Hezbollah has fired thousands of rockets at Israel.
We're seeing more interceptions now over the skies of northern Israel as a fresh barrage of Hezbollah rockets comes in.
While more than 100 miles from Gaza, Israel has pounded southern Lebanon, raising fears of war on a second front. In central Gaza today, hospital authorities say at least 36 people were killed, including 15 children, by an Israeli airstrike on a school. This little boy tells our team, glass and stones fell on us. There was dust everywhere. The IDF says it was targeting a Hamas command center inside the school. The latest young lives cut short in this unforgiving war.
This attack shows the true face of Hezbollah, a terrorist organization that targets and murders children playing soccer on a Saturday evening. We will act to restore full security on our northern border for all the citizens of the State of Israel.
Savunma sanayinde bizim ithalat, ihracatımız neydi? Nereye geldik? Ama sevgili kardeşlerim, bunların hiçbiri bizi aldatmasın. Biz çok güçlü olmalıyız ki bu İsrail, Filistin'e bu akara makarayı yapamasın. Biz nasıl Karabağ'a girdiysek, nasıl biz Libya'ya girdiysek, bunun benzerini aynen onlara da yaparız. Yapmamak için hiçbir şey yok. Sadece biz güçlü olmalıyız ki bu adımları da ne yapalım? Atalım.